You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. I got to ask Omakongo and Julian this. So y'all might have seen Naomi Osaka. She actually put out a tweet. She was talking about her being on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Well, that didn't sit too well with these whiny conservatives. This is the this here is the cover, and she calls this. She says first Haitian woman and first Japanese woman on the SI cover. And so this is right here what she put on Twitter. And so these are the images right here. Well, that didn't sit too well, these whiny conservatives. And so you had Clay Travis and Megyn Kelly. They decided to weigh in and get upset with her because, you know, she chose not to do interviews. She's talked about her mental health, things along those lines. And so Megyn Kelly, you know, who, you know, remember Megyn Kelly, Santa Claus is white, Megyn Kelly. What she did was she put out this tweet here that was a joke. Let me try to find it. Let me try to find it where she whined about it. So this is what this fool Clay Travis said. Saying she's too introverted to talk to the media after tennis matches, Naomi Osaka has launched a reality show, a Barbie, and now is on the cover of the SI swimsuit issue. Okay, so then Megyn decided to chime in by saying, let's not forget the cover of an interview in Vogue Japan and Time magazine. Well, that caused Osaka to fire back by reminding her that you do know the lead time to magazines are several months, and she said she did these interviews months ago. And so now poor little Megyn and Piers Morgan, who is 100% bitch assness, they are now complaining because Naomi Osaka has blocked them. Well, here's the deal, punk ass Piers Morgan, you blocked me last year. Oh, you know? So you mad because Osaka blocked you and you're sorry behind blocked me? Go to hell, Piers Morgan. And Megyn Kelly, shut the hell up. Julian, these people are a trip with their nonsense. Go ahead.
Well, you know, first of all, Megyn Kelly just needs to disappear. Like you said, Santa Claus is white. Da-da-da. Just go away, girl. Just go away. Bye, Felicia. Piers Morgan, even worse than that. Naomi Osaka needs to be commended for taking control of her mental health. The fact of the matter is we are in a mental health crisis here in this country. Some fools shooting up outside the National Park in Washington, D.C. Post-COVID, all kind of people lose. If this young lady has enough prescience to say, I don't want to talk to the media, it causes me anxiety, good for her. She doesn't have to. And all Piers Morgan has to do is just, get on a horse, and ride it. And Megyn Kelly should have been canceled a long time ago. But I give her props. July is Minority Mental Health Month. We're looking at people of color and mental health issues, and anything that causes you anxiety got to go, period.
It amazes me again when you have this poor little and I wonder, since Megyn is complaining about Naomi Osaka, well, Megyn, your former Fox News colleagues, Eric Bolling, Sean Hannity, Lou Dobbs, Maria Bartiromo, all four of them blocked me. Y'all gonna complain about that?
The hypocrisy is amazing, and we want Megyn Kelly to disappear from these airways, but she ends up on Sirius, and so it's like they keep finding ways to keep her, whatever she's doing, going. And I'm like, one of the things you didn't mention, Roland, is that Naomi also has a special on Netflix as well. So my thing is, like, what I love about what she's doing is that she is, and many athletes out there, the LeBron Jameses of the world, they are flexing their muscle. They're showing their power. They're letting people know that y'all need us to make these, for the ratings, for the endorsements, and all of these other types of things. But you know what? I'm in control right now. And with all of the mental health challenges, I'm thinking back to your earlier segment about Ed Buck and the extreme cases that these black men are dealing with. There are so many issues that people need to see, people within our community, and this is also true within, the Asian community that she represents as well, where there's this stigma around mental health and mental illness. And so for her to speak up and then to come out on these covers like a boss like that and do all of these specials, more power to her. And we have her back, period, bottom line.
Again, Piers Morgan, kiss, in the words of Della Reese from Harlem Nights, kiss my entire ass. Entire ass.
Classic.
I mean, Piers Morgan, and he is 100% bitch assness. All of his whining about Meghan Markle because she ghosted him, because you probably sucked on the date, and he can't get over it. Now he wants to trash her. That's why you little punk ass walked off the set when you got criticized, because you couldn't handle the heat that was in your face. And so I'm like, shut the hell up.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in black-owned businesses, the black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Y'all know what time it is.
Girl, no charcoal grills are allowed.
I'm white. I got you, Carl.
Illegally selling water without a permit
On my property.
Whoa! Hey!
You don't live here.
I'm uncomfortable.
All right, so very rarely will we have a white person checking a white person in our Crazy Ass White People segment. But I think that this airline worker clearly embodies why this segment was created. This video was shared last night. It is probably one of the best 1 minute moments you will ever have in your life. Y'all ready for this here? Check this out.
Second of all, you called my employee a bitch. Completely uncalled for, inappropriate, you're not going to travel. We don't tolerate that crap with us at all. So you can find another courier to fly for you. I'd suggest Spirit. Nope. If you acted appropriate and you weren't disrespectful, then I would let you travel. But unfortunately, you called my employee a bitch. Did you call my employee a bitch? You didn't.
I was sleeping there. No, I did
You
not.
didn't. So the other people have heard you say it as well. So don't count. Yeah, she also had 2 children. Yes, ma'am.
Listen.
Yeah, don't lie because you already did that once when you took the mask off and put a new one of yours on
I was
again.
getting this out of my bag. This not, yes, I was.
You were putting the same mask on. You didn't have a mask on when you went
Can I
down.
tell you what
Unfortunately, no. If you don't follow our policy, that it's a period end of discussion. You don't want to follow a federal mask mandate, and then on top of that, calling a vulgar name to my employee, it's not going to happen.
My man said, "Don't lie. You've already done that once."
Right.
And
Did you call her a bitch?
And then he was like,
Did you call her a
"But
bitch?
you called her a bitch."
On top of
And
all
one was
that.
like, "I did. I have children," and she has 2 children. But when my man said, "Find another airline," I suggest you try Spirit.
They let anybody on. Anybody can fly. They fight over there.
My
You
man
wanna
said,
fight.
"I suggest your
where
ass
they fight.
try Spirit."
Yeah.
I'm done.
Go there. Go
He
there.
wanted to promote another airline. Because he didn't want her to fly.
Yep.
Look,
I
the
don't want
slander
you not to
spirit
get
here.
there.
Do
You
y'all
just
do
need to
y'all
go,
do y'all understand?
go to Spirit. Yeah.
And y'all, my man said, and he kept an even ass tone. I suggest you take your punk ass to Spirit.
No, that was the read of all reads. That was the, and I will call the marshals, but I'm gonna tell you about yourself before I call the marshals. And you don't. It's not that I don't want you to go. Just go on an airline that suits your particular
Crazy.
proclivities and predilections. You want to fight. So
Listen,
go where they fight.
he was
I don't
matter of
understand.
fact about it. He wasn't emotional. He was just matter of fact
No.
about it. And he was
Wasn't
just
nothing
reading her in
emotional
a
about
very
it.
even tone.
I just don't understand why
Because
we got to stand.
she took that. I hate it because I guess it's not just white women. I just don't happen to know any black women who do it. She took that. Hi, I didn't, but I didn't.
I didn't mean. Oh, it was a misunderstanding.
In the tears, that I have children. And he's like, "Did you call her a
She got
bitch?
children too. You called
She
her a
has children.
bitch.
Look, I just don't understand why we got to slander Spirit in this. What does Spirit do to these people? Look, I fly
Oh,
Spirit all the
we
time.
know exactly. Oh, hell no.
We are not slandering Spirit.
But hold up.
He did that.
But hold up.
That
As
was
I watched that video, it just reminded me of this one.
They fight over there. They fight.
Today,
I
and
need
the
a-
climate that we live in today's
I said
society,
I was sorry.
I understand that, but it's above me now.
I need a room tonight.
Well, there's the Best Western next door.
No, please, let me hear. My daughter's here.
I'm sorry, but I mean, I was on the phone when you said it,
I said, I'm sorry. Please, I've had a horrible day
and I had a
today.
horrible time when hearing that.
He won't let me in.
It's above me. She called me a.
Sir, my grandma just
I
died.
understand that, but it's above me.
Please let me.
It's above me. Sorry.
I got my
The
credit
Best
card.
Western is next door.
Sir, the rest of our family
I
is
understand
here.
that, but it's above me.
Please. I
She
apologize.
said what she
sir.
said.
I understand that.
I understand.
She's very...
It was the same tone. No.
It's above me.
It's no.
It's
you,
above me.
You called her a bitch.
It's above me.
No, you. Yes, and so no, actually, you wouldn't put your mask on, and so you don't want to follow airline policy. No, you're not getting on this plane, and I suggest you find another airline. I suggest you fly Spirit.
Spirit.
Spirit, I ain't got no problem with y'all. Spirit has never done me wrong. I would like Spirit to give me some free miles and whatnot also. So Spirit, if y'all need like a spokesperson, I'm here for you. Now Frontier, that's ghetto. But Spirit is fine. I don't know why y'all keep talking about Spirit.
I just had, to all of the airline personnel, that's exactly how you respond. No, you're not getting on this plane.
Nope. You call her a bitch. No. See, you tried that lie once. Now you try. My man, I don't know. I don't even know what airline he worked for. I don't know my man's name.
I know he didn't work for Spirit.
Y'all need to give that man a raise for what he just did in dealing with her ignorant ass. See, all these people, they running around here, they don't want to put masks on, they ain't trying to take a vaccine. I'm telling you, the only way that video could have been better if they shot it right, which was horizontal, but they shot it vertical. So just do me a favor, please always shoot videos horizontal, so therefore it fills the whole screen. So we now have the black bars on each side. See, you got the black bars on each side when you shoot vertical. Go horizontal versus vertical. So I just had to play that one. That was absolutely fantastic.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in black-owned businesses, the black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Y'all know what time it is.
No charcoal grills are allowed.
I'm white. I got you, Pearl.
Illegally selling water without a permit
On my property.
Whoa! Hey!
You don't live here.
I'm uncomfortable.
So imagine being in a city council meeting in Alabama and this happens.
The N-word.
I mean, I know I'm black.
Do we have a house nigger in here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we? Hey, do we? Would she please stand up?
Y'all was seeing this, right? Cameras?
Okay, that was a city council meeting. Yeah. Some of y'all may have missed that. Roll it again.
The N-word.
I mean, I know I'm black.
Now you want to address what I have to say.
Do we have a house nigger in here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we? Hey, do we? Would she please stand up?
Y'all was seeing this, right? Cameras?
Okay, so this was Tarrant, Alabama City Council member Tommy Bryant asking that question. That's Tommy right there. And he was speaking to Councilwoman, or the direction of Councilwoman Veronica Freeman. Folks there are shocked. Freeman is shocked as well. He later, I'm reading this. This is from Newsweek. I'm reading this. Bryant, let me try to close these ads out so y'all can see. Bryant later defended his use of the term in an interview with WVTM, claiming he was only repeating the words Tarrant City's black mayor, Wayman Newton, had previously used in reference to Freeman. According to the councilman, Newton described Freeman using the phrase along with the prefix stupid in an executive session earlier that day. I thought that the city ought to know what sort of terminology the mayor uses, and I didn't want him to get away with it, so that's the reason I used that comment. We need to stop the racial slurs that the mayor makes. He's always picking on Veronica Freeman. The mayor bullies her. The city needs to know what kind of mayor and what kind of vocabulary he has. So now Tommy is defending the black councilwoman. You buying that one, Monique?
No. Should I?
His quote, "I did what needed to be done," Scott.
Well, who made him the parliamentarian and the ability to be use the N-word, to be free to use the N-word in a public setting like that. It's interesting, his level of comfortability using it in a public setting and the acceptance of his words and phrases in that public setting. While people were offended, right, no one got up and walked out. No one physically or verbally assaulted him in response. And so you still have parts of this country, especially in the South, where the acceptability of using that N-word and that term just seems to be offensive, yes, but not something you want to take a stand on. It's not a fighting word in some parts of our country. And that's not only sad and disappointing, but it's really racist, right? And that black people who are the subject of that term feel powerless in how to respond to it, whether it's intellectual response or whether it's a physical or a social response, that in a public setting with the American flag there, that they're using this term. And then lastly, what are the repercussions of him using that term? He explains it away in some intellectual fashion as if it was race neutral in using his term, but there's no censure, there's no suspension, there's no expulsion for him using that word. And so essentially, that community is living with the acceptability of that council member until you vote him out. It's sad, but it's true.
Robert, Alabama, I'm reading again from Newsweek, Alabama Republican Party Chairman John Wall branded the remarks, quote, completely unacceptable in any setting, but stopped short of calling for Bryant to resign. But here's the other deal. The black mayor he's talking about is a member of the Jefferson County Republican Party. and the white guy who just said it, he says, I ain't stepping down. He says, I might run for mayor.
Yeah, I think in big chunks of this country, folks don't understand what the Deep South is still like. Particularly, I think people watch Real Housewives and they watch Love and Hip Hop, and they think that Atlanta is the rest of the South. No, as soon as you cross 285, you're going straight back into Mississippi burning. And this council person is correct in what he is saying, in that he knows there will be absolutely no political repercussions for what he said. That might be his campaign slogan when he runs for mayor, and it might get him elected. This is why it's so important that we push voting rights on a national level, because throughout the South, you're looking at Georgia's 35% black, South Carolina is almost 40% black, Alabama is, I think, 33% black, and yet they still do not have the political power to control their own local elected officials because the right to vote has been so thoroughly curtailed within those jurisdictions. So this does not tell you the need to pass a national voting rights act. The fact that an elected official can say the N-word in open session on video and know there'll be no repercussion, then I don't know what better case there is to push the 40 people out there for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
And Lord have mercy, I keep telling y'all these folk are losing their minds. And he lucky he didn't get popped right there in the meeting. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in black-owned businesses, the black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Last week, black women were on Capitol Hill. Civil disobedience when it comes to voting rights. Congresswoman Joyce Beatty was among those who were arrested. Today, it was the brothers, Congressman Hank Johnson, Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter, and others were out there today. There were 10 men who were arrested as they protested outside of the Senate Hart Office building. Roland Martin Unfiltered, we were there with our cameras, live streaming the entire event. If you go to our YouTube channel, you can actually see what took place with the event, folks.
Now, Capitol Police took them into custody after being warned that they were demonstrating without a permit and blocking the entrance to the building. The demonstration began in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, where Johnson, Albright, and Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and others demanded Congress and reform for the filibuster reform. Okay, guys, if I could hear the audio, it'd be great. Of course, they want them to pass. Thank you. They want them to pass the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. The goal is to have consistent pressure being applied, to Congress for Democrats to actually move. Joining us right now is Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Also, Mawuli Mel Davis, founding partner, Davis Bozeman Law Firm, and Dr. Wes Bellamy, chair of advocacy for the 100 Black Men of America. Glad to have all three of you here. Cliff, y'all have talked about sustained action, which what is needed. There were Black women last week, and you're mobilizing the Black men this week.
That's right. Thanks for having me, Roland. Thanks for having us on. I'm so glad to be here with these brothers that were out there with us today. And so thankful for you and your team for covering the entire action from start to finish. Yeah, it's going to take sustained action. You know, we shouldn't be in this position. We shouldn't be in a position where we've got to go out, hitting the streets, being arrested. You know, we're thankful for the sisters last week, who I call my leader, Melanie Campbell, National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, CBC Chair, Representative Beatty, who led the way last week, Thursday, getting arrested. And so we were following their footsteps, and really brothers coming out today to support sisters, and brothers wanted to make it clear that brothers got something to say too, and so it's going to take this level of action, unfortunately, especially after listening to the president's remarks last night on the filibuster. I'm sure you'll get to that later, but it's going to take direct action. What we expect to see, what we're hoping that we see, is that we see this level of action every day. There should not be a day that goes by without somebody doing some type of nonviolent civil disobedience, because that's what it's going to take in order to get the members of the Senate and the president in the White House to understand that we are serious when we say that we are not going back to Jim Crow 2.0. We're not going to sit by silently and watch them erode our voting rights. We certainly are not going to just treat this like we can just out-organize the voter suppression in 2021, 2022, and moving forward. We're going to be ungovernable until they pass the voting rights that we demand, and pass it now.
Wes, on that particular point, it is trying to get people to understand this also is not a black thing. Earlier, I tweeted this earlier today, and I said, white progressives, a lot of y'all were out there in the streets after George Floyd. Where y'all at? I said, Latinos, you're being impacted by these voting laws. I said, white college students, they're moving early voting locations off of college campuses. Asian Americans, y'all were all upset over hate crimes. Congress moved to pass a bill that dealt with hate crimes. Why are you silent on voting? I said, why are black people having to carry the banner again? And this is about challenging Latino, Victory Fund, challenging La Raza and LULAC, challenging these progressive groups, challenging Asian Americans as well. I mean, bottom line is, this is all hands on deck. The laws being passed are impacting, because in Texas, they're pissed off that in the suburbs, Democrats have been doing so well, so they're targeting educated white voters. And so we need to have these folks on Capitol Hill as well. And they don't need us to actually plan it. They can do it themselves.
Well, Roland, thank you so much for having us, and shout out to our leader, my dear brother, Cliff Albright. I think you're absolutely right. This is not just a quote-unquote black issue. Although, as you also alluded to, whenever we're trying to create change in this nation, and oftentimes when it does come forth, it's led by black people. I'm personally not concerned with what other individuals are going to do. I know what we have to do for our people, and that is, one, hold the Biden administration accountable. Joe Biden made a promise to black folk and black America, and he said it very clearly. He would not be in this position without the support of black people. Well, he's written a check that he has to come in cash, and we are going to ensure that we get our money's worth. He needs to come out in support of the filibuster, and we will, as Brother Albright said, not be governable until that happens. We are calling on Vice President Harris to come in and stand up and speak up in regards to the filibuster. We're acting and calling on members of Congress to act and do their jobs, and we're not going anywhere. This will be sustained pressure, as Brother Albright said, in support of the sisters, in support of the brothers, and we will be here.
Mauli, about 3 minutes ago, Congressman Al Green of Texas tweeted this letter out. He was out there today as well. This is the second letter that the Democratic Texas delegation has sent to President Joe Biden, asking him to meet with the Texas Democratic state legislators. Again, this is the text of the letter. On July 16, 2021, we sent you a letter requesting a meeting between you and the Texas Democratic state legislators. We know that you have an impossible schedule and that everything on your agenda is of paramount importance. However, we believe that the issue of free and fair elections in Texas merit our attention and ask that you have a brief virtual meeting with the Texas Democratic state legislators. Thank you in advance for all consideration that you will give this critical issue. And it was actually signed by Congressman Green, in addition to Democrats Lloyd Doggett, Henry Cuellar, Vicente Gonzalez, Sheila Jackson Lee. When the black women met with the white, so last week, after the sisters were at their protest, they got a call to come meet at the White House with Vice President Kamala Harris. President Joe Biden stopped by. To me, President Biden should be meeting with these Texas Democratic House members as well. Mauli? Keep talking.
Absolutely. We believe in the position that we've taken in support of the legislators in Texas is that Joe Biden should lean in immediately, meet with these legislators who are trying their best to fight what we've experienced in Georgia, this anti-voting, fundamentally anti-black legislation that prevent us from being full citizens in this yet-to-be United States. And so that work is ongoing. I just applaud the work of the men that came together today and have been coming together across the country. Obviously, my brother Cliff Albright has been critical, and for us, those of us who come out of a Pan-African Black nationalist position, follow his leadership around voting and voting rights and our voting advocacy. And so I was just grateful, and I would go to jail again if need be, because this is such a critical issue and so important. And it's now time that President Biden pay attention, lean in a way that those of us who went out, hit the pavement, and got out to vote in Georgia in particular, to give the Democratic Party this win, that he now responds in a way that is reciprocal, and that this is not a here we go again moment for the Democratic Party and for this establishment. So again, I'm grateful and I appreciate you for opening up the airwaves for us to have this conversation.
Back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just 1 moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Hey, Cliff, let's be real clear. When Dr. King and others were President Lyndon Baines Johnson, it didn't matter that he was a Democrat. They made it clear they expected him to act. They expected him to move. Last night at this town hall that took place on CNN, this is what President Joe Biden had to say about the filibuster that did not sit well with you and a lot of other people.
I would go back to that where you have to maintain the floor. You have to stand there and talk and hold the floor. You can't just say,
I understand that. But what difference is that if you hold the floor for, you know, a day or a year, what difference does it make? Here's the thing for me. You talked about people, and this is important for people who look like me. My grandmother would sit around when I was a kid, 5th grade, had a 5th grade education. I learned that she couldn't read when I was doing my homework. She would tell me stories about people asking her to count the number of jelly beans in the jar, or the soap. And so why is protecting the filibuster, is that more important than protecting voting rights, especially for people who fought and died for that?
No, it's not. I want to see the United States Congress, the United States Senate, pass S1 and S4, the John Lewis Act, get them to my desk so I can sign them. But here's the deal. What I also want to do, I want to make sure we bring along not just all the Democrats, we bring along Republicans who I know better. They know better than this. And what I don't want to do is get wrapped up right now in the argument whether or not this is all about the filibuster or, look, the American public, you can't stop them from voting. You tried last time. More people voted last time than any time in American history in the middle of the worst pandemic in American history. More people did. And they showed up. They're going to show up again. They're going to do it again. But what I want to do is I'm trying to bring the country together. And I don't want the debate to only be about whether or not we have a filibuster or exceptions to the filibuster or going back to the way the filibuster had to be used before.
But isn't that the only way you're going to get it done right now?
No, I don't believe that. I think we can get it done.
Cliff, this is what you tweeted. In this response, Biden demonstrates at least 3 things. 1, he didn't actually believe a word he said in his passionate speech last week about how dire the current voter suppression is. The entire speech was a lie. He expects community activists, particularly black activists, to simply recreate the Herculean effort that it took to mobilize voters in 2020 and the 2021 Georgia runoff, and to do so in spite of historic new voter suppression. He lied when he said he'd have our backs. 3, he tells Don Lemon a blatant lie when he says the GOP votes are there, mimicking Joe Manchin, who is also lying. If you couldn't get a single vote to investigate January 6th, you're not getting 10 votes for voting rights. He's either lying or insane. My money is on lying.
Yeah, Roland, you know, and let me say this right off the top, just as a side note, I want to give some, you know, credit and acknowledgement to Don Lemon, who did what a lot of journalists don't often do, right? He pushed the question a couple of different times, even after the original question from the member of the audience, really pushing the president to elaborate on the answers. And in that elaboration, he was really exposing himself in terms of his position on the filibuster, his position on voting rights, and his position in regards to the black community that he said he would have our backs. And we now see in our moment of need that he doesn't have our backs. You know, there's so much that he said there, you know, even just watching the replay, it makes me upset just to hear him say, you know, oh, the Republicans that I know better. Who are those Republicans that you know?
Name them.
Yeah, name them, right? I mean, if I'd be glad to say that I was wrong to say that he was lying. If he can name the 10 that he has, I'll even give him an out. You don't even have to tell me the 10 that you've got confirmed votes for. Tell me the 10 that you're targeting. Tell me the 10 that has given you some indication that they might actually vote this way on voting rights. Tell me the 10 people who refuse to investigate January 6th, but that you think is somehow going to support a voting rights bill. Tell me who those 10 are, right? And then I'll believe you in the things that you say about how you believe that the votes are out there. But until you can show me that or show me some reason on why you expect that, all I can assume, and I think all that black voters can assume, is that you are simply not telling us the truth when you say that you're going to have our backs, that you're not telling us the truth when you say that this is the biggest attack against voting rights that we've seen since the Civil War. You can't have it both ways. You can't, on the one hand, say that voting rights are sacred, but then on the other hand, worship at the altar of the filibuster. You can't serve both guys. You can't have it both ways. You've got to pick a side. That's what we were demanding with our actions today with the brothers. That's what the sisters were demanding last week. That's what we're going to continue to demand as we continue a campaign of nonviolent direct action and civil disobedience.
See, Wes, I'm just trying to understand who are these fictitious Republicans Biden is talking about. The reality is this here. The Senate that he knows when he was there, that don't exist anymore. It does not exist. So this whole idea of, oh, no, they believe in it. No, let's be clear. When it came to reauthorizing the Voting Rights Act, there was a point where Democrats and Republicans voted for it. But it was after that Shelby v. Holder decision in 2013 where the Republican Party says, we leaving that bullshit behind and we are not supporting it again.
Right.
You had a Wisconsin Republican who repeatedly offered a reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act. It was very weak. He could not get more than 10 Republican co-sponsors. Couldn't get it. And now, right now, oh, they ain't supporting Jack. So I don't know what the hell Joe Biden is talking about of these magical Republicans that seem to exist that nobody has met.
You know, I just want to say, Roland, I've been receiving text messages from someone. One, your show is definitely being watched. I just received some text messages from someone, a high-ranking official within the Biden administration, and their response was they believe in the direct action in which we're taking, but their belief is that, or excuse me, it is a belief that if we end the filibuster now, that the infrastructure bill will die, and we need all of it. My position, specifically in regards to what you just alluded to and also what Brother Cliff just alluded to, if we put our faith in these Republicans, and specifically these white folk who have consistently shown us that they don't care about us, we're going to get what we always got. I'm furthermore disappointed that the president has chosen this position in which he is playing nice with his old friends over the Senate, over the values of people who put him in the administration. But I can't say that I'm surprised. And I think now it is important and imperative for all of us, specifically Black folk, Latino folks, Asian folk, but we know what we're going to do, to continue to hold the line and be very defiant in regards to, defiant as well as very bold in regards to our position. We're not going anywhere. We know that he doesn't have 10 Republicans who will agree with this. And the fact that he's holding our position and our values, specifically when it comes to voting rights, hostage, or using it as a tactic in terms of his overall strategy to try to get a multitude of things is disappointing. But I'm not going to expect or pretend that I expected anything more from this administration, and we will continue to have direct action.
I am confused. I'm really confused on this one, Mawuli, because it was just a couple of days ago where the Republicans blocked Schumer on a vote on the infrastructure bill.
Right.
They ain't support. See, okay, so whoever the hell texts Wes, since y'all watching, let me be real clear. Mitch McConnell has already said we ain't passing none of this. Okay? They already said that. The second thing is when Biden came out and coupled reconciliation with the infrastructure bill, the so-called bipartisan bill, Republicans backed the hell off. So they ain't planning on supporting that $580 billion bipartisan deal that was struck because they're saying, oh, we're not going to support that, and then y'all going to come back with reconciliation? Nah, we ain't supporting neither one. But here's the other deal, okay? Why in the hell we got to sit here and wait on the damn infrastructure bill? Let me be real clear to the White House who is watching this show right now. You're not going to have a Senate majority after the 2022 election. You're not going to have a House majority after the 2022 election. Republicans right now can, as a result of the census, they can right now gerrymander a victory to take over the House solely by taking 5 seats in Florida and 5 seats in Texas. And so when Biden says, oh, they're going to come back out, no, they not. Because I'm telling you right now, the folk who came out in a pandemic to take out Trump and the Republicans, You got these white folks on the right who are hyped about critical race theory, and if y'all cannot show you are willing to fight for something, you not gonna have black people, brown people, young voters turn out in record numbers when we all know, Muali, we all know this, that in an off year, the party in power is more than likely not to maintain control. So, White House, y'all better swing and y'all better show some fight if y'all think folk gonna come out and fight for you in 22. Mawuli, go ahead. Is he still there? All right, Cliff, Mawuli, you're still there?
Yes, this is Francis Johnson. I'm sitting in for Brother Davis. He's my law partner, my colleague. We were all out with Cliff today as a part of this demonstration of our outrage, one at the Republicans and what they're doing. But you're right. It is also against the Democrats and their failure to do what they've promised. At the end of the day, black people who turn out in Georgia.
We lost that, Cliff, respond to what I just said there. We'll figure out what's going on there. We lost the signal. Cliff, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And yeah, that was Francis Johnson, who was also arrested today, chair of the board of New Georgia Project. But no, Roland, you're exactly right. You know, it's crazy to think that black voters, brown voters, and, you know, any of those voters that risked our lives, and especially black voters that risked our lives in this last election, again, not just to put Biden into the White House in November, but then to come back in the state of Georgia in the midst of the pandemic, in the midst of winter, you know, right during the holidays, to come back out, risking our lives, and then to give him the Senate that he would need to push his agenda. If they don't move that agenda, particularly in terms of issues that black folks have demonstrated that we care passionately about. We're talking about voting rights. We're talking about police violence in the George Floyd Act, right? You know, we're talking about HR 40. You know, if they don't move on these issues that black folks are expecting them to move on after we gave them the power to get some stuff done, you're not going to see the kind of turnout. And then add on to that on top of the fact that you'll have black voters that have been disillusioned, that will also be having to do this work, like organizations having to do this work in spite of historic levels of voter suppression, you can't out-organize the type of voter suppression that we're talking about. Just recently in the state of Kansas, right, where they passed the voter suppression bill, organizations are already saying that they are pulling back on their voter registration operations because of the bill that was passed in Kansas. It defines and gives a criminal charge if you pretend or you act as if you're an election official. And so that puts some of these organizations in a hard position, because if they're going out registering folks, they can, and it's worded so vaguely that just for doing something like doing a voter registration drive, you could be accused in the language of this bill as acting like you're an election official. And these organizations are saying, you know what, we can't even go out and register folks right now because of the voter suppression bills. You're seeing that in state after state after state. You can't out-organize that. You've got to have some federal legislation to deal with that. And so you'll have both of these issues that we're confronting: voters that are disillusioned because they didn't see the kind of fight that you're talking about, Roland. And then on top of that, organizations that are dealing with a new ecosystem of voter suppression. That is a deadly combination, which, as you were saying, will cause Democrats to lose both the House and the Senate. And then, regardless of what the vote looks like in 2024, you won't be able to get a Democratic president confirmed, because you'll be in a situation where they'll have the rules in where they can rig and they can overturn elections even if we get the votes out in 2024. And so it's a spiral, and it has to end now. There's got to be a fierce urgency of now in order to deal with this issue, pass the voting rights, stop the voter suppression right now. Last word, the other piece about what you said, which is very important. I met with the Texas delegation the other day, 2 days ago. They need to hear from President Biden. You are absolutely right, Roland, and Representative Green, who was out there with us briefly today, is right in that letter. The president has got to meet with that delegation. They are risking a lot. They are separated from their families. They're risking health and welfare. They're risking a lot in order to take this stance. The president at least owes them the dignity of meeting with them and discussing with them the situation that they're facing.
Back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Always has his finger on the pulse and the T-shirt to match. Roland Martin is the host of Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily. Roland, your shirt says it all. Vote like your ancestors died for it, because they did.
But absolutely, and you set it up properly when you talked about those who are impacted. And I had Wes Bellamy, the former vice number 2 for the Charlottesville City Council, on my show the other day. And he raised an important question. He said, where are the allies? He said, where are the LGBT activists who had African Americans standing with them on critical issues? Where's HRC? Where's GLAAD? Why aren't they leading civil disobedience campaigns fighting for voting rights? Where's Vote Latino? Where's LULAC? Where's La Raza? Why aren't Latino groups standing up? Where are white progressives? Where are all of those white Americans who were taken to the streets last year fighting for George Floyd, not coming back saying the George Floyd Justice Act
So let me ask you about this. This is a very interesting question that you raised. One of the things about George Floyd, you and I talked about it, you and I have been talking about this for years. We talked about it in Ferguson. One of the things about George Floyd was that people saw something happening that they had heard about and didn't fully believe. And once they saw it, they took to the street. The allies took to the street. Is it because this is nebulous? Because it's not clear how this actually affects people?
No, it's not. It's very clear. The problem is they simply see this as a black thing as opposed to an American thing. You have had Republican clerks who have been on record as saying they have moved early voting locations off of college campuses to places further out to keep people, because they do not like the number of college students voting. Those are white voters. It happened in Wisconsin. Not a lot of black folks, okay? It's happened in North Carolina and other states. I have been saying for years to young white voters, voter suppression affects you. What they're doing in Texas, they are angry that they've been losing the suburbs in Texas. And so they're targeting Houston, Harris County, Houston, Dallas County, Bexar County, San Antonio, also Travis County and Austin. Guess what? A lot of white folks living in the suburbs. And so I need white America to realize this is not just a black thing.
So what's the way...
This should be Freedom Summer 2.0.
What's the way you make people realize that? Because there are 2 distinct reasons to join the fight, right, to be the ally. One is because you don't want your black and Latino friends or fellow citizens disenfranchised. But the other one is you cannot call yourself a democracy if everyone is not entitled to that same democracy. Then it's not fair.
Absolutely.
It's not part of the deal.
When Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, my sister from Texas, the first black woman elected from the South since Reconstruction, gave her Watergate speech, this is what she said. My faith in the Constitution is whole. It is complete. It is total. And then she said that she was not going to stand by and allow for the diminution, the destruction, and the subversion of the Constitution. What we see now is the perversion of the Constitution. And we have far too many people who are being silent. And so part of the problem, Allie, is when you only see black folks protesting, you only see black folks
writing letters, those civil rights groups. You need to have people who are public. I need to see Senator Kristen Gillibrand and Senator Elizabeth Warren getting arrested like Congresswoman Joyce Beatty did, like Congressman Hank Johnson did. I need Senator Bernie Sanders sitting there getting arrested. I need white members of Congress, Latino members of Congress, Asian members of Congress. You had Asian Americans who were fighting for the anti-hate crime bill. Guess what? Y'all are impacted too. And I got to give some folks some history here, Allie. If you are voting in your native language, when you go vote, you better think black folks, because that's the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Last week was the 30th anniversary of the American Disabilities Act. Guess what? You don't have that, well, the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And so the work of black folks in all these years has helped folks when it comes to things getting passed. But what has to happen now, you need to have people of all colors showing themselves, saying this impacts us too. You cannot have just black folks protesting. That's what Reverend Barber's doing, the Poor People's Campaign. I'll be in Texas beginning on Tuesday for the March for Democracy in Texas. We'll be live streaming that. And they've got people from different backgrounds. That has to be happening all across the country. We need folks taken to the streets, massive protests, because what the Republicans are doing, they are simply trying to destroy this democracy in order to support Donald Trump and his absolute lie.
And, Reverend Barber's joining me at the top of next hour. He also was recently arrested in this fight, because we are now seeing the thing that has worked in America. It has worked in South Africa. It has worked in India. It is working its way in Russia. Civil disobedience actually does get things done. Roland, thanks as always for being with me, my friend. Roland Martin is the host of Roland Martin Unfiltered.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
In Maryland, activists are calling on Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby to drop charges against a black man who was facing his 5th murder trial for the homicide of a security guard. In 2015, officers approached Keith Davis. They mistook him for a robbery suspect. The officers also believed his phone was a handgun. They demanded Davis drop the phone and begin shooting. He was shot more than 40 times. A jury acquitted Davis of the robbery accusation, but convicted him of possessing a gun. Critics of Davis's trial called the evidence unreliable and flimsy. At a news conference regarding a different incident, a reporter asked Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby about the Keith Davis case.
I'm not here on the Keith Davis trial. The one thing I can say about that matter is that I'm going to fight for victims of crime in the city of Baltimore. That is my job, that is my role, that is my responsibility, and my concern in that case is Kevin Jones.
Now, joining me right now is Kelly Davis, the wife of Keith Davis, and his attorney, Latoya Francis Williams. Glad to have both of you on the show. I want to start with you, Latoya. So walk people through exactly how we got to this point. So he was holding a phone, but he was convicted of possessing a gun. Were fingerprints found? Did he have a gun? Was one planted? And how is this now a 5th trial?
Right. Well, the long and short of it should not be a 5th trial. Mr. Davis never held, never had, never possessed a gun. Mr. Davis was actually acquitted of what we call wear, carry, and transport. However, there was a handgun, the state's version, located in the mechanic's garage on top of a refrigerator. And so in the state of Maryland, one could be convicted of constructive possession, meaning possibly if the handgun is within your lunge, reach, and grasp, and there's an allegation that you could have known of it and exercised control, that is considered to be possession. So while the jury acquitted Mr. Davis of actually possessing and all the other counts in the robbery trial, that is the linchpin. That is what the state's attorney's office has hung their hat on.
All right, so at the initial trial, okay, so then there was a second one. When was that? And then when was the third one? And then when was the 4th one? And now, go ahead.
So here we are. I mean, to keep it brief, I should say, the robbery trial took place first. When Mr. Davis was acquitted of all the charges that one could think of, he was charged with robbery, assault first degree, wear, carry, transport, a host of charges alleging that he tried to rob what we call a hack in Baltimore, an unlawful taxi. The allegation was also that he attempted or did shoot at law enforcement. Despite the state's version of what happened, saying that that handgun was never fired, those charges hung out there until the first day of trial, and the one count of discharge of a firearm was dismissed by the state. So after he was acquitted of all those counts in the robbery trial, the state then brought the first murder trial. The murder charge was based on the allegation that the handgun that is alleged to have been recovered, that's still up for debate, because the only officers in that mechanics garage were the shooting officers. And as we all know at this point, at least one of the shooting officers was under federal investigation for trafficking drugs from Philadelphia to Baltimore. So as we all know, the difficulty in Baltimore and the credibility of the Baltimore Police Department, the version of the officers is that one of them discovered a handgun on top of the refrigerator itself. The handgun is alleged to have been associated with the killing of Kevin Jones earlier that morning at the Pimlico racetrack. So that's supposed to be the tie-in. But nevertheless, as the trials have gone on, the state's own witnesses have testified in favor of Mr. Davis, identifying that that handgun has no evidence of gunshot residue, no evidence of being fired that day, that the shell casings that were tested according to the firearms examiner of Baltimore City, their own expert witness, identified that while he called the shell casings from the homicide scene to the handgun itself a match, he ended up admitting on cross-examination that he just simply eyeballed the shell casings. He actually took no notes. He did nothing according to protocol, and that is what the state is hanging their hat on. You know, it's unfortunate that it's so convoluted, but Mr. Davis has certainly been dragged through the dirt since 2015, and it's certainly been our position as both a criminal defense attorney and a plaintiff's attorney, civil rights attorney, that Mr. Davis has become the butt of this persecution because he survived the police-involved shooting. There's no question that what has been made available to the public is Mr. Davis was the first person shot in Baltimore City by police since Freddie Gray. And that has been the plight of Mr. Davis. He's been fighting since June of 2015 for his liberty and his life. So to kind of keep it brief, Mr. Davis was convicted of second-degree murder that was overturned. The other trials ended either in a hung jury or an overturned conviction. So we have 4 in total in terms of the homicide, and in terms of the robbery, as I just explained. It's been a whirlwind. And unfortunately, we are still where we are today because the state's attorney for Baltimore City refuses to put her eyes on the actual evidence. So, you know, we're here. We certainly appreciate you listening and the nation listening to the plight of Mr. Davis.
So has a 5th trial date been set?
A 5th trial date has been set. If I'm not mistaken, are we in May of 2022? Ms. Davis, I know, is on the line. I believe it's set for May of 2022. I could be standing corrected. She can correct me if I'm wrong on the exact date.
Kelly, what about that? Kelly, you're on mute. I think now we got you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. May 16, 2022 will be his next trial date.
So he was shot more than 40 times. How is his health? Is he still impacted by that many bullets?
Mr.
Yes,
Martin,
sir.
he was shot at.
He was shot at 40 times. Kelly, how many times was he hit?
He was hit 3 times, once in his arm, his back, and a bullet that went through his face and lodged into his neck.
How is he now?
He still suffers tremendously. He was a completely healthy 23-year-old when he went in, and now we've had to fight the corrections facility multiple times a year just to get him adequate medical attention. When the bullet went through his face, it severed his sinus cavity, so he now has issues breathing. He has just as much titanium on one side of his face as he does bone on the other, as well as he still has fragments in his neck, in his ear, and that are close to his spine that were unable to be removed.
How long has he been in? How much longer does he have to go?
He
time-wise
in prison.
Yeah, in terms of walk folks through what, because first of all, walk folks through his process. First of all, because you say we were fighting, you say we were fighting the corrections folks when it comes to his treatment. Explain that.
So, of course, when you're in prison, it's inadequate medical care. They have, he's not getting what he's needed. We have to fight in order for him to get medicine, like prednisone, just to be able to breathe. We have to fight for him to be seen by a doctor. When you're in prison, your medical care and you know, your well-being is the least of their worries. So that's what we had to fight. And he's been incarcerated since they shot him. So they shot him on June 7th, 2015. He's been in their custody since. We've had to fight multiple times. He's had a bullet removed out of his neck in 2017. We had to fight to have that removed. He's had breathing issues. He just recently, this past year, I had to rally the public together to call into the correctional facility as I received a call saying that he was on a ventilator and I needed to sign for a procedure. He was on a ventilator. He had to have a blood transfusion. He was bleeding out and they didn't know where. And even still to this day, he still is not receiving the medical care that he needs for that incident as well.
I'm trying to understand here, LaToya. So his conviction was overturned in 2019, but he's still in prison?
That is correct. It sounds convoluted and crazy because it is. As we stand here today, Mr. Davis has served the entirety of any sentence that he should and could have served. And we're dating back to the robbery trial, the constructive possession conviction. He has served that sentence. He is literally sitting pre-trial at this point. His new criminal defense team has lobbied for bail reconsideration, habeas petitions on behalf of Mr. Davis, not just for his medical conditions, but he's innocent until and unless proven guilty. But this man is actually an innocent man. The state's attorney's office has been able to lodge charges against him and use the allegations themselves as the reason to hold him pre-trial. Now, the very frustrating portion is this. I ask anyone that has followed any of the trials to look at the testimony from the state's attorney's office's witnesses. Every allegation against Mr. Davis is refuted by their own witnesses. Location. There's an allegation that Mr. Davis was at Pimlico Racetrack and shot Kevin Jones. That's the allegation. The state's own expert witness said, actually, we can't place Mr. Davis at Pimlico Racetrack. Handgun. The state's allegation is that Mr. Davis had wielded, carried, touched, shot this handgun. Hammerly pistol. Their own firearms examiner expert said that there's no evidence that this handgun was actually fired on this day in question, that there is no evidence that there's any gunshot residue. And the biggest and most important concession by the state's witness is that there was actually never an assessment done with the shell casings from the Pimlico Racetrack to this gun that's alleged to have been found on the top of a refrigerator in the mechanic's garage that Mr. Davis took cover in when the police started shooting. Everything from DNA to fingerprints, the state's own witness testified that there is no evidence of Keith Davis on Kevin Jones, and there's no evidence, DNA evidence, of Kevin Jones on Keith Davis. If we were to go through bit by bit the allegations against Keith Davis and simply take the sworn testimony from their witnesses throughout these many trials, you will find that every one of the allegations has been shot down by the state's attorney's office. So where do we find ourselves? We're wondering what next. If your own witnesses have refuted your rendition of what happened on June 7 of 2015, the only result right now should be to drop the charges.
So, Kelly, after his conviction was overturned, he was then charged by prosecutors with stabbing an inmate?
Yes, sir. Keith, his conviction was overturned. There was an incident that had took involving his case, and myself and my family thought we could breathe a little bit easier because this conviction was overturned, and we left town to go celebrate Memorial Day. And as soon as we got to the hotel, we got a call from his lawyer saying that he was being charged for a fight that happened inside of the prison that was a year old. So it was a case, an incident that happened with him, and the prosecutor's office reviewed that information and decided at that time, the incident, that it was nothing, that it was just an incident that happened in there. And then a year later, Marilyn Mosby and a new prosecutor, Marilyn Mosby's office, has now filed charges for that year-old fight.
So that means, LaToya, he's facing a retrial on an event in 2015,
Correct.
but could be facing a second trial over this attempted murder in prison.
And let's be very clear, you are correct in that analysis. The state has decided now, more than a year after the alleged fight took place, and I've got to tread lightly in terms of talking about that. We do believe that there's video evidence that, again, exonerates Mr. Davis. What's troubling is this. The state's attorney's office has made clear the only reason they brought these, quote, attempted murder charges now against Mr. Davis was to ensure that he stays in jail pre-trial. They were nervous that the court would assess the weight of the state's case in the murder trial and let him go home pre-trial. So this was their way to really anchor him down. If this is not malicious prosecution, I don't know what it is. What we do know at this point is that an assistant state's attorney, back when Mr. Davis was attacked last year, analyzed the information last year and decided that it was not worthy of bringing criminal charges against Mr. Davis for whatever reason. Either they didn't believe he was an instigator, either they believed that the evidence didn't support any charges, much less an attempted murder charge. The local reporting at this point on that second case was that there, in fact, was no knife found. And it's my understanding at this point is witnesses have been contacted, and those witnesses find this charge against Mr. Davis laughable, quote unquote laughable. So again, you know, we implore the state's attorney for Baltimore City to do the right thing, not continue this persecution against Mr. Davis, and saddling him with other charges won't wrong these rights. Won't right these wrongs, I should say, excuse me. It doesn't, as we said before, it doesn't change the facts of June of 2015, that Mr. Davis is in fact a victim, not just of government overreach, but Mr. Davis is a victim of police misconduct, and Mr. Davis is a victim of prosecutorial misconduct.
Okay, it's a whole lot to unpack there, and we certainly thank both of you, LaToya as well as Kelly, for providing us this perspective. And we've reached out to the office of Marilyn Mosby to get a comment, and we hope to get one beyond that comment that we played just on the show. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Folks, back to our roadmark unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
Do y'all remember that crazy-ass white Florida woman who made headlines for tossing both a Whopper and a racial slurs at a Burger King worker back in May? Well, she's been sentenced to probation. Yeah, retiree Judith Black only got 12 months of probation after a no-contest plea to the misdemeanor charge of battery. Black was also hit with a $785 fine in order to go to anger management classes and can never go back to the Burger King location in question. Wonder how many Black people she's gonna run into, Miss Black.
Folks, back to our roadmark unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.